Okay. I call to order the Yamhill County Board of Commissioners formal session for May 18th, 2023. It is 10:10 in the morning. And Commissioner Johnston, if you could please lead us in the flag salute. Okay, item C is our calendar session. I don't think we have anything to add other than the Memorial Day boat races are next weekend.
I added the Dayton Bridge groundbreaking, which I believe is Wednesday or Tuesday. Is it Tuesday?
Do you know?
I sent it to Carolina. I don't remember. I think it might be Tuesday. Anyway, I can send that out to everybody.
Tuesday at 11 a.m.
Yes,
Thursday.
right. Utility bridge.
Yeah.
Well, calling it a utility bridge. I don't know what the difference is.
That goes by the park.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
11 a.m.
11 a.m. Tuesday.
Okay. I think that's it for calendar. Item D is public comment. This time period is reserved for public comment on any topic other than an agenda item, a quasi judicial land use matter, or a topic scheduled for a public hearing. So if there's any public comment in the audience today, please feel free to come forward, or if you're online, please raise your virtual hand. Hearing none, I do want to make a quick editorial comment about public comment. I am very proud to say that at least since I've been serving on this board, I don't believe we have ever limited public comment in terms of timing people to 3 minutes or 5 minutes or whatever. We allow folks to come and speak freely. They pay our salaries, they pay for county government. This is their government. And I've been in some public board meetings lately over the past couple of weeks that are pretty shocking how they treat the public in terms of cutting them off at 3 minutes or just really kind of checking out because they're more concerned about the time. So very, very proud to serve on this board and proud of that policy that we have. Item E is department updates. We have nothing today. Item F is our work session. We have one item on our work session. It is review and discussion of child care task force report and recommendations.
Okay. Yeah, so I figured as a start, as far as the format, yeah, if you want to come on out, that's great. You may recall that we had a presentation that was presenting recommendations and findings in the report from the Child Care Task Force. We had that information. I know we've had pretty busy agendas leading up to this, so we haven't had a chance to circle back. So at this point, this work session's on the calendar to talk about the recommendations, any questions that the board may have, and I think staff, I think we're all kind of looking for some direction on next steps on what the board would like to do. Just a reminder, we do have funds, the ARPA related funds specifically earmarked for childcare, and we do have some time limits in place on when we have to spend those funds. So we put this on the calendar to, again, not to say that there may be any decisions that are reached today, but I think we're all kind of looking for some direction on how the board would like to proceed.
Okay. So I'm trying to think of when we had this discussion. Oh, the last part of March, early April. So, yeah. So in terms of opening it back up, are there any questions that we have on the former reports? I know it's been a while. And if you need the slide deck or anything emailed, I can send that over.
No, I have no questions. Thank you.
You have
No,
your
I think
notes?
we pretty much hashed this out when we,
Mhm.
So I think the bottom line is if I'm looking at the overview that we got in March, that the task force recommends partnering with one of Yamhill County's existing high-quality nonprofit childcare programs to open a new childcare center to serve simultaneously as a childcare program for children and a training apprenticeship program, which pretty much covers what we're all looking to do. I know that when DCI was here talking about Project Oasis and what they had done, they really had the sort of the template, I think, for how it was done and how industry got involved. What my concerns are, I just want to make sure that we're not using a lot of the 2.2 for, to me, I think a lot of times this money gets sort of siphoned to admin, to all of the admin, to all of the grant writing pieces of this. And I want to look at how we get this into expansion of existing childcare facilities. And then starting up new ones. And maybe it's easier or quicker to get the home-based ones expanded, because we know we had some grant, some ARPA money that when a couple of the requests were for things like outside playground equipment, and that stuff is so expensive. And then we see the regulatory, the SDCs, all of that piece that comes along with it. So I want to make sure that we're making it so much easier for anybody who wants to do this. And we're not using a lot of this for the wonky piece. So that's my only concern is, could we contract the grant piece of this to a contract grant entity, or, you know, in other words, what's the cheapest, most effective way for us to do this? Because government tends to bog things down. So I know we've got the experts here.
My name is Jenna Sanders. Just to remind you, I work for Mid-Willamette Valley Community Action Agency. I am the Associate Director of Childcare Resource and Referral. Our agency has offered to be the fiscal agent for this if you were interested in that. We would need 10% administrative costs, just because, especially if we are opening a center, there are requirements for us to, you know, monitor contracts and go out and make sure construction's happening and all of those things. You know, we do have the infrastructure. Our budget for this year is over $60 million. We have a lot of state and federal contracts. And so we have the IT, the HR, the fiscal department that have the capacity to manage projects like this, and we are willing to offer that to you. We also, this is what we do. We support early education programs and educators and help expand and find staff. I do think the in-home piece of this is so important, but we were talking to Sui earlier, staffing of centers and Head Starts and everyone right now is, there are so many programs that can't open fully, that absolutely can't expand because they don't have staff. That I think that's why we got to this place of saying, hey, we really want to have this training center. We really want to do the apprenticeship program, because maybe then we can start moving that dial and have the programs that already exist actually be able to have children at full capacity, rather than Little Bird, who Jessica Barr, who was here with us last time, she has a classroom that's funded through Preschool Promise that she hasn't been able to open this year because every time she hires a staff person,
Right.
it falls through. And, she thinks she has someone right now, but, we have opportunities that are being lost because of a lack of staff.
Yeah, and I think that's something we know goes across every industry, whether it's government, whether it's restaurants, everybody's looking for qualified people. And this has been a difficult industry historically. So a couple of things. I think that sometimes, and we've seen this with the incentives to retention and the recruitment grants we saw coming out of the state, that at some point there becomes this, like, you don't have enough money to pay for what you need with the budget that you have. So those are the two things: is, are we being, aspirational? We know we don't have enough qualified people, especially in a difficult to staff industry. The other thing is, I look at that 10%, and it's nothing to say that there's no, but when you have a dollar amount for a project and you say, okay, well, we take 10% of this, regardless of, this is what it is. I would like to look at a model perhaps where we're saying, this is what it will cost to do this, but it's not necessarily we're going to get a sort of a commission off the bottom line dollar amount. Do you know what I'm saying? Is like, and I understand where you're going, but I also understand 10% of this is a lot of money.
And we respect that. And part of our concern, I was in a meeting yesterday with our CEO, is that we have ended up in multiple projects in the last few years where we have said, oh, hey, we'll be flexible. And then, there's all these requirements, or there's all of this oversight, and, and then we end up shorting ourselves and, and impacting our financial viability because we are not, we're not making sure that we can do everything that we're being asked to do under contract. And so, I think that's part of the, the piece is, might there be a little wiggle room? Perhaps, but we would need really clear understanding of what the level of accountability and reporting and all of those things are with this money and what we're exactly taking on before we could sort of say we have any wiggle room, because, we need to make sure that we can, meet what you're asking us to do, that we can support you in the way that you're asking to be supported, because, and everybody get their needs met.
And so deliverables, and that would come down to, if we were to move to that place, a contract with deliverables and timelines and things like that. And also the piece that says, well, if we can't find the people, it's sort of a non-starter. And that's what I'm a little concerned about, is we still are going to have a problem finding the people.
And you won't know that until it's all done.
Yeah, well, we know that now.
Well, yeah, you're going to run into issues, but what do you start first? You can't have the employees sitting there waiting for a $500,000 building to get built for somewhere to go. And then all of a sudden you get to the finish line, you're like, yep, can't hire, can't put butts in seats. And
Yeah.
So I think that's, my question was kind of going back to the training center. Can you describe again what the expectation or the vision is for that specifically, so that we can sort of balance some of those concerns?
So the vision is that this would be a regular licensed childcare center that would serve 80 to 100 children. And in some levels, this is what they're doing on a daily basis. Little Bird, is like, hey, we need staff. We can't find anybody qualified. We hire, high school students off the street. We train them. Eventually they get, to a place where they are qualified to be a teacher, or, all of that. This just gives more support to that process. And I think that's part, is, so it's, giving a support person. The proposal is through CCR, Child Care Resource and Referral, that there's a support person that helps train those people, that helps them provide high quality to the children in these programs, because they know nothing. Is that in general, a lot of programs are hiring people who have never spent any time with a child unless they have their own child or grandchildren or nieces or nephews. And so it's to try and help get them the training, the knowledge, and the, supporting them with coaching so that I had a conversation last night with Jessica, and she's like, I have this brand new person, third day in, didn't know how to do a bottle, didn't know how to change a diaper. The teacher she was supporting ended up in tears because she had 8 babies that she was trying to deal with alone. And so the goal is to try and, the thought with the stipends is to help programs be able to maybe staff at a little bit higher level for the first month or two, so that their teachers aren't ending up in this place where they're needing help from somebody who doesn't even have basic skills, so that we can get some skills and training and stuff before they're needed for ratio, before they're one of 2 people trying to juggle 8 babies, all of
Yeah.
those kinds of things.
Yeah, I think we're with you on that.
Yeah.
It's the training center itself. I mean, is this something that we're looking at an existing building, an existing space? We're just going to renovate, something like that?
Well, part of where we don't have it, Project Oasis does not have a space at the moment. And they do have the existing center in McMinnville, and they have the existing, and Little Bird has the existing center in Lafayette. They have offered both of those centers up to do the training portion until the new center gets built or renovated or whatever.
And there are other opportunities in the community that have come up recently. And what we're proposing is that TCR now has an RFP for the training center. And Project Oasis has assured us that they're very interested in applying. But we'd also like to give other folks in the community that are also interested in this model a chance to apply and look at who's the best fit for this.
It is possible that there are people that are closer to the finish line at this moment than Project Oasis. They're still trying to find space.
So the Wonder School component, because I know they had reached out, I'd had conversations with them for us to do something with them individually. They kind of just fell off the radar, but I wondered how much of that model is part of your proposal?
So the shared services piece in there,
Yes.
that is, that's part of that model is partnering with CCR&R to leverage some shared services that we're hopefully getting from the state, to leverage that funding and this funding to provide that to all of the programs that participate with us.
And just a thought, when you were talking about not knowing how to change a diaper and all that, well, we know the people who know how to do that are our seniors. Our seniors are struggling financially. A lot of our seniors are still able to work, but the workforce is kind of chaotic. And I'm wondering if we go through something like Northwest Senior Disability Services and something, and get folks who certainly have changed a diaper in their lives.
Yeah.
And there's nothing better than a grandma with a child. A kid doesn't have the patience, but perhaps a grandmother who's changed a few diapers would be willing to pick up a baby and go from there.
And that would be part of the benefit of having a position that's helping support this and recruit, is that they would then have that sort of bandwidth to sort of, go to Senior and Disability Services, go to the employment department, and sort of, be like, hey, go to the high schools and do some of that recruiting that, that maybe, has not been tapped as well as other areas just because of capacity right now.
Intergenerational,
Yeah.
like the good old days.
Yeah.
Was there a place in Newburgh that was in mind? Because in the proposed budget, it shows $200,000 in SDC, or was that just a worst case scenario?
Right, budget in the actual presentation here was based on the site that they built in McMinnville and the Newburgh SDCs. So that's those figures lumped together.
So those are changing. And we have a new mayor and a new city council in Newburgh, and they have really gone to work on the SDCs. So in terms of making it more affordable and more doable in Newburgh, I think we would have a better shot. We know Project Oasis came up against just untenable SDCs. So I think there's a better chance to get something in Newburgh, and we need it there. I mean, look at DCI, and they've got a lot of their folks are coming from the West Valley, from all over, low-income folks who have no place for their kids.
Yeah, I would go a step beyond that and say that I think if we're making this kind of investment, we have an expectation that they have skin in the game. So when you get to that point, my expectation would be to let us know and we can start showing up at those city council meetings and asking them to have skin in the game.
In other words, waive the SDCs.
I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Suey Linsmeyer. I'm the Executive Director for Head Start of Yamhill County, and I'm the Chair of the Child Care Task Force and kind of do everything related to kids in this community. And since 1980, I've been involved with kids. I used to do childcare in my home, and when my kids grew up, I did in another state a lot of training for childcare providers. Right now in our Head Start program, we are taking advantage of some funding and doing expansion for our classrooms. We've never had this opportunity before. We own 3 centers, and we're very fortunate that my predecessor did that, but we don't have enough space. So we're partnering with Praise Church, with the McMinnville School District, also trying to get a center going in Lafayette. We've been working on that since July, and this week we finally got the approval to change the use from retail to education. In order to do that, we had to pay somebody $5,000 to help us with plans, and we had to have a lot of patience. And I'm a systems person, and I've learned a lot about building. I mean, I did that in another lifetime as well, but it is very complicated, and each community has very different processes. And what I'm realizing is, in Yamhill County, we have so many different communities. McMinnville is very far ahead of the rest of them, because you also have to be in the right zone for a childcare program, unless you're doing family childcare. So that's in your home. You can do that in any community. But even in Dayton, for example, the only place where you can do it is on the main drag for a center, and there is no space. I mean, it would be so cost prohibitive. So I think that's a part of what is going on in Newburgh as well. We're expanding our center there. We look to see, are there other buildings that we could renovate? And because of the zoning, where childcare, which is considered, right now they call it daycare. All the statutes are very old. I mean, I know that they're working on that. And again, McMinnville is leading the race with that, but it really complicates things. And so I think, again, having somebody that has that experience, because I know that the CAP agency does, because this is what they do. They do building, and they know planning, and they know how to go through all the permitting processes. That could be a support to this whole project.
Would there also be another avenue if you added school to that, childcare / school, or school / childcare, to create more zoning opportunities?
We tried to do that in Lafayette because we actually wanted to be part of the school in Lafayette, right? The Washer Elementary School, but they didn't have enough space. And when we talked to the city manager there, it was very clear that we could not combine them. So it's right there. I mean, I don't know if that's the case in other communities, and I don't know if we were getting the right information, but again, that was a big part of it. There was nobody to provide the training and the information for us. So, yeah.
Well, and that underscores my point, because we've seen it happen. We saw it in Newburgh, and, there's those of us who are hearing from parents and community members and community leaders like yourself that this is a major problem. And here we are coming to the table with a big boatload of money. And I don't want to be in a position where a city is throwing up, 5 different steps of, well, you have to do this and you have to pay for that and whatever. So at least my expectation is that if you get to that point, and when you get to that point, we come in and start applying pressure. And maybe we don't. Hopefully we don't have to apply pressure, but it's just really ridiculous. I don't want to have another, Newburgh story. That was really sad.
It was sad.
I would say that would be so lovely, because the only reason that we got our Lafayette Center through was, I told Lafayette, we have until June 30th to spend our money. It's state money, it's special, it's earmarked for this. And I said, otherwise we have to stop. We can't serve the children in Lafayette. We'll have to continue to drive them on the bus all the way to McMinnville.
Yeah,
So somebody applied pressure and that's how we got
right.
it.
Well, the new
So-
mayor is a mom of 4 kids, so
I know, yes.
She's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's definitely motivated and she's
Yeah.
a community member first.
Yes.
Yeah.
So she'll be your ally.
Yeah.
What do you think in that almost year-long process? What was the biggest hang up? Was it just nobody was paying attention to it, never made it to an agenda?
The biggest hangup was the city of Newburgh's planning department. So it's a terrible thing to say, and I think I've learned this the hard way. They do planning for Lafayette. They do planning for Cornelius. I don't even know who else they do planning for. And there is one person he does the intake with all of the plans and he's in charge of that. And then there's one person above him. So it's staffing and,
Mhm.
just staffing is a problem everywhere. And then they have to select, which projects should we push through first. So
Is that Lafayette that chooses who to use for planning? And would that be something that might fit into Ken Friday's wheelhouse or not? Or is this like next level?
No, not necessarily. It is up
Not
to
to
the,
get off subject.
it's up to the individual jurisdiction, if they don't have an internal planning department, some of them may work with like council of governments, or they may enter into contracts. That varies city by city. Whether or not, I will say, and if Ken was here, he can correct me. I will say that working in the rural area versus the urban planning, it's pretty big difference.
Yeah.
Our zoning
Okay.
and code looks a lot different than what the city, because when you're dealing with urban growth boundaries and everything else that occurs within the UGBs, it's not to say that Ken and his team couldn't do it,
Right.
but I could talk to Ken, but it would really be up to that jurisdiction
Mhm.
if they reached out to us and
Right.
wanted us to entertain it. Much in the same way we provide building inspection services to a lot of the cities as well. So
Right. Just
Yeah.
curious.
part of what we did with our task force, and that was my focus, I said, can't we go and change some of the requirements, just in Yamhill County alone, but that would be working with each community. And some of I believe it's in the Redmond area, they decided to put, they sunsetted all of the permitting fees for childcare, which, they said in 10 years, this is where we're going to be, and this is the process that we're going to take. And that would be wonderful.
Yeah.
In Newburgh, we have one church space that we're using for a small group of toddlers. And the church did not have the education use allowance, and we actually had to hire an architect to do the plans so we could submit those and go through that process. And that was very expensive. And so we're a Head Start program. We can find funds to do that. But people who are doing childcare in their homes or small businesses, they just can't afford it.
Yeah.
So-
See, and that's frustrating. I guess I'd piggyback on what Chair Bershauer was saying. Besides this, if they need assistance for other projects that have to do with childcare, I think we're also all for helping connect some dots
Mhm.
and putting
Sure,
pressure
yeah.
on with wherever we can.
Yeah.
That would be
absolutely.
fantastic. I hear stories regularly.
That's ridiculous. A
About
whole
people-
year, almost a whole year
Mhm.
for,
Little Bird was looking for 5 years
Mhm.
at least to try and find something within McMinnville. They ended up in that strip mall
Right.
because that was the only place that they could get that wasn't going to be prohibitively expensive with all of the land use stuff. And,
Right.
she toured a multitude of properties and, kept hitting, and then DCI hit, what they hit in Newburgh. I mean, and theirs is not the only story. I mean, I
Right.
hear it,
Mhm.
I would reach out. I mean, no matter whether
Yeah.
this or another one,
that would be
we all
amazing.
three have different connections, same connections to apply pressure or just ask and be like, what's the deal here? Can we help out? Whether it's city of McMinnville, Newburgh, Lafayette,
Yeah, and some
wherever
things,
it's at.
like Dayton, you mentioned, I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
So,
Yeah.
And I go to most of the
Mhm.
city council meetings. I can bring some of this stuff up. Maybe they're just not even aware of it. It
Right.
doesn't get to maybe city council level to where they can go apply pressure, a little bit lower, but
Yeah.
I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Well, and $200,000 is a lot of money, could fund a lot of
Yes.
childcare spots and or training. So, yeah, that's important. The other part of that regulatory piece is that I know, Barr mentioned that she was having a little bit more success with the state and background checks, but if that continues to be a problem and you're facing that, that's another area where we come in and start lobbying the state. So,
Actually, those have improved, I'm happy
Okay,
to say.
okay.
The only ones that are tough are people that are coming from out of state, and
Right.
it's really because of what the other
Yeah.
states, their
Okay.
processes.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions on the proposal?
I just want to back up to one of Commissioner Starrett's comments about the 10%. This has bugged me on other things, not necessarily this project, that there's always just a percentage set to it. This is what it's going to cost. I'm like, how can that be? So I would definitely favor a breakdown of some sort to see where the set 10% is going, to at least so I get it, but just to do my due diligence, I'd like to see a breakdown of the 10%. I mean, that's 220 grand. I'd like to see where it goes.
Yeah,
towards.
well, and there, just to be very detail oriented, it would be 213 because the 70,000 has already been spent for the task force.
Got it. Okay.
I mean, I think that if you want us to explore what a contract would look like and what the requirements are, I mean, we could absolutely give you a better breakdown of what it would look like for us. I mean, at this point, you know,
Just
that's sort of
You
what we
don't
can
want to
give
put a
you.
lot of work into it before, but yeah,
Well,
I.
Yeah, and because that was one of the reasons for scheduling the work session, because we weren't sure what direction the board was wanting
Right.
to go. And so this would allow, in fairness, because we didn't really get a green light on what direction the board would like to go. And
Right.
if sounds like if you want us to go, this is the direction we're going, then we can get into more of those details, what the contract's going to look like, and then we can come back before the board and have, of course, it's going to be subject to board approval, but there's going to be more discussions to be had.
Because if we had $5.5 million to devote to a project, then would that be 10% of that? Would that necessarily be that many more, that much more of a benefit and a deliverable? So that's just the 10% piece. And the other thing is, I was wondering if you could also give us some specifics on the nonprofits, all of the nonprofits that would be involved in this. All of them. I mean, that you had worked with or gotten grants from or anything. I had some questions early on about one of them. And I'm just wondering if we have a breakdown of all of the nonprofits.
Can you give us a
Oh.
better hint about what you're looking at?
So early on, I believe, who was the lady who came and spoke to us from? I'm losing sight of her name. right now.
No, not sure.
That came in support of DCI? and
No,
Project-
was she with DCI anyway? Early on, very first presentation. She came in, maybe so.
She's the consultant for Project Oasis.
I don't know for sure, but in any event, we talked
Yes,
about,
that was it.
was
I
that her?
remember what you were
Okay.
saying. Yeah.
We talked about, I had a concern about one of the nonprofits called Seeding Justice. And I would really want to look into any kind of association with that organization. It's pretty radical. And I don't think it aligns with, I know the work that we're all trying to do. I just want to make sure we're not going there.
So Mid-Willamette Valley Community Action is a CAB agency, but we are also a nonprofit. The goal would be to have whoever is doing the center be a nonprofit.
Sure.
Project Oasis is a nonprofit. The two positions would be through Child Care Resource and Referral through our nonprofit. And then the rest and then the shared services would just be paid
Mhm.
out to the Shared Services Alliance. The money that is going to stipends would go to the program that is accepting the apprentices, which would not necessarily, I mean, if it's going to Little Bird, that's not necessarily a nonprofit, but that would be who would
Okay.
receive that in the short term. And then the rest of it is grants to programs that are opening.
Okay.
in general, it would mostly be our nonprofit that
Okay,
we'd be working with.
Because I remember early on, at an AOC meeting a number of years ago, when we received some funding in order to be able to work on childcare in our counties. The organization, the commissioners said, well, we're going to give it to Seating Justice and then they will dispense it. Well, then you took this big chunk of admin off the top, and then you also added a lot of political components to that. But I do believe that they had gotten some money, but as long as they're not part of the equation at this point, I think your organizations are, not aligned in any of it. Yes,
The only possible connection to Seating Justice per se would be if Project Oasis applied and got the RFP. They have applied for the childcare expansion grant that is being run through Seating Justice to help round out the cost on their end. So it wouldn't be they're associating with Seating Justice. It might be, they might get a grant to help with some of the additional cost that the grants from the state, the childcare expansion
Right.
grant. So that would be the only connection there. There is no work going through them or
okay.
anything like that.
Because that money did come from the state, but
Right,
again, we
exactly.
lost so much of it in the admin piece. So yeah, that's fine. Thanks.
And the last time we met, they hadn't heard about the funds, about the grant.
Last we heard, they still have not.
Still haven't heard.
Seating Justice has, my loose understanding of what's happening is that they have sent out to their top candidates the request for application. My guess is that they will see if and how much money they have left after that, and then either go down the line to other applications or reopen it for more.
Project Oasis has been asked for more information.
Yeah.
That's where they're at in the
It's on.
And that's a statewide organization, Seating Justice.
It's a nonprofit, but the money that came from the state to the counties, I was not in favor of it. They instead of giving it to the counties, because if we had the money, we could do what we needed to in our communities. They gave it to a nonprofit who is now dispensing it through grants, which makes it all the more convoluted.
I see.
But it's state money that they're.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have one more question. So this is what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
And you get to our recommendations. And it goes. Rebuilding our early care and education workforce. And then there's another one for investment in sustainable new business startups. And I probably had this question last time, but those both are combined into this budget as the proposal, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
So when you look at the $100,000 for, it's $250,000, the proposal is $250,000 grants for additional centers that want to open or expand. And then there's $200,000 that goes to family childcare that wants to open or expand.
Got it.
And with childcare, there's no one way to do it. You have to think about what each family needs.
Yep.
It's very different what people want in the West Valley compared to what they want in Newburgh, compared to what they want in Carlton. And family childcare is also smaller, easier to get going, except for some of the details. So again, childcare licensing, it's $50 to get for each person in the home, in the business, to get their first aid and CPR alone. So helping them to navigate those systems, know where to do all of that, and then the record keeping, because what we see is people are either really great at working with kids or really great at business, but very few can do both. And so that's why, in my opinion, this is such a great asset, because that's what CCR&R does. It's what they've done for decades.
I wanted to make sure it was all one
Yes.
group approach for both programs.
Multi-pronged.
Yep, like it. Okay.
There was a bill, I don't know if it passed, I believe it did, which it used to be that if you were going to do a childcare center in the home, you had to own your home. Now you can rent,
Yes, it's wonderful.
which is a game changer.
That's been a huge problem in terms of family childcare in our state, especially and in our community, is that I had somebody that moved and was trying to find a new place and could not find a single landlord that would allow her to rent their space and do family childcare.
Yeah.
Okay.
So hopefully that will move the dial in terms of being
Mhm.
able to expand in-home programs in our area.
Okay, any further questions? I think we're looking for some direction on proceeding forward with perhaps the structure of a contract and what that would look like. And definitely to Commissioner Starrett's point, some deliverables with that contract pricing structure. At least for us, for our benefit.
Timelines.
Timelines,
Deliverables.
deliverables, yeah. I mentioned this last time, but measurements of success, however, and we might have different measurements of success, but how many more additional spots are we creating? How many more additional, childcare workers have we trained up? That kind of stuff.
Throughout the implementation of
Yeah.
the program. Yep.
Yeah.
I like it.
Okay, so do I have a consensus to move forward?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay,
sounds good.
so we'll be in touch and we'll work on an agreement and then we'll get that agreement on the agenda for future meeting.
Sounds good. Thank you very much.
Thank you so
Appreciate you coming
much.
again.
Thank you. What was the timeline? What's,
Tomorrow?
is it July that they have to be allocated by?
For
No.
ARPA?
No,
For-
we have the funds that are readily available and appropriated right now. I
Okay.
think it's just gonna take the time needed to
Yeah.
put together a draft agreement and get a draft before the board.
Okay.
So it's on my list.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
A lot.
Let's see. Okie dokie. So that is the conclusion of our work session. Item G is our consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Okay. Any discussion?
None.
I do want to thank the CEO of the hospital, Michael Mulkey, for his service on the ASA and just really jumping in the past few months and meeting with everybody he can possibly meet with in the community to strengthen relationships with the local hospital. So
Yep.
really appreciate his work.
And we've needed ASA representation from the hospital in McMinnville.
Yeah.
So that's much appreciated that he's even interested.
Right. Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. All opposed, same sign. Great, thank you.
So how bad is this copy machine? Has it been given like major issues? Like we wouldn't want it upstairs? Because ours gives us issues.
Ours is really bad. Maybe we should trade.
The one upstairs may be older. I think that one upstairs has been here since I've been here and
Oh,
I
yeah,
started.
since I've been here. So that's
Yeah.
9 years.
So
I'm just wondering before it goes to the chopping block, we might want to, is it like once a week it gives you issues or? Oh. that's
Oh, we
prob-
got
that's-
you beat.
Yeah. Just a thought,
Yeah.
throwing it out there. You never know.
No take
I hate
backs.
to-
We already approved it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like stuff.
Okay, item H is old business. There's nothing under old business. Item I, other business. I1, consideration of approval of amendment number 8 to agreement number 173153 between Yamhill County and the Oregon Health Authority for the financing of community mental health, addiction treatment, recovery and prevention, and problem gambling services, Board Order 21-490, in the amount of $193,335, retroactive to January 1st, 2023 through June 30th of 2023.
And that includes enhancing the mobile crisis response
Yes.
24/7. I'd move approval.
Yes. Okay, is there further discussion?
None.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. All opposed, same sign. Great, motion passes. Item I2, consideration of an agreement between Yamhill County and Sierra Santa Fe Corporation for the chip seal project in the amount of $819,777 effective from July 31st, 2023 through September 16th, 2023. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Okay, any discussion or questions for Director Lago?
None.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Item I3 is consideration of agreement number 73000-000-16516, key number 23142, between Yamhill County and Oregon Department of Transportation, ODOT, for the complete replacement of old railroad grade road bridge with a county match in the amount of $127,758.80, effective upon full execution through completion or 10 calendar years, whichever is sooner. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Okay, any questions for Director Lago?
None.
Okay.
Commissioners, just to be clear, in the agenda, it says for the complete replacement, but this agreement, I believe, is just for the design and engineering part of that replacement project,
Okay.
correct? Construction, bidding and construction would be a separate process.
And
after
ODOT's
design and
spearheading this one, right? We don't have a lot of input.
engineering.
Yeah, this is all ODOT, it's federal funding.
So,
Okay,
Except
do you
for the
want to amend?
10% match.
Exactly, except our match.
Right.
Who made the motion?
so.
Mary did.
Do you want to amend
I-
it to
I'll
say
amend
design and engineering?
Design and engineering of Old Railroad Grade Bridge.
Okay. Okay, any further discussion?
None.